Hello, hello.
What's up, boys?
Oh my god, the focus peaking's on. I gotta turn that off.
Uh-oh.
At least everyone can see that your headphones and your glasses are, and my eyes, are in fact in focus. How is it going, everyone? Looks like our internet connection is good. I will have this figured out in 1 second.
You love to see it.
You really do. Okay.
God.
Nope, false color. There we go. All right. Now we should be good. All right.
Excellent.
Here we go. Let me get the chat.
What do we got in here?
Let's over to the live chat.
Oh, yes.
All right. How is everyone doing?
Oh, man, we got a lot of people. All right.
Yeah, we got the trailer going. You're damn right. Nothing but professionalism over here.
That's right.
We're grinding through the axe conversion for the shucked oyster.
Yes.
That will be finished and final PDF out to you likely in 1.5 weeks, subject to any issues. And then we're going to order physical proof copies and wrap that up.
Yep, we sent an update to everybody this morning or this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. And you should...
It's coming along.
It is coming along. And I'm excited for it to be done. But
I'm excited to get that physical proof.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be awesome. That is going to be awesome. But yeah, we've got... we also, announced through the Kickstarter today that we've got our next one up. You've probably seen the trailer if you clicked on this before we started the stream. So make sure to check the link in the description. There's a couple links in this description. The first one that's listed is going to be the topic of tonight, which is BROZER, which is basically the Broasar's kind of guide to Braunstein play and the culmination of the development of what they've done in the last probably 3 years, but the kind
Something like that.
I think a lot of the bigger stuff was in the last year and a half or so. So we will be talking about that. And here's the thing. It's free. And they tell you why it's free in it, which is really cool. So go check that out. And then we've got the Cults of Zahak Kickstarter link under that. So you can go and sign up to get notified for that. We released a video on Mythras today, the combat system.
Right.
Which is an awesome combat system, by the way.
It's playing really good. Yeah.
Yeah, we're alternating weeks right now. I'm running Axe for our main group, and then it's just me and Nick and Spencer playing Mythras on the off weeks. And it's going really, really well right now.
You're on the tail of something unspeakable.
Yeah. And we're playing in the setting that Cults of Zahak, the adventure Shadows over Avalok, takes place in.
Yes, that's correct.
Which is very exciting and very, very cool. We also talked to Basic Expert today about the cover for Cults of Zahak. He's also going to probably do some interior full-page pieces for us more than last time, which is awesome.
And we talked recently with someone else, a new figure.
That's right. A new figure who's going to be doing some art for us.
New art, never before seen.
Yeah. So there's going to be, we'll still have some stock art in Cults of Zahak, but it is going to be a lot more original art.
Right.
Partially due to the success of the Shucked Oyster. So thank you everyone for that. It's you will see this reinvested in the next product. But anyways, we're going to go through some of the chat for a while.
Talk about somebody else's
I know
product.
some of you are probably looking to talk about BROZER, and we certainly will. But as always, the format of the show...
We have a lot to say about it,
We do actually have a lot to say. We've been talking about it all day. I messaged Jeffro last night for a little bit of clarity, which he provided. And yeah, we've been talking about it a lot. Anyway, so let's see.
What do we got?
We got squat, bench, deadlift, hype,
What's
hype,
happening,
nice.
dude?
Benjathan Snortikins, good to see you again. Mr. Games, first name Black, how compatible would this be to 5e? If you're talking about Cults of Zahak, it's a different system. It's a percentile skill-based system.
Right.
The concepts, here's the thing.
Can be translated very easily.
We're going to make a video about this soon.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of questions on
the Shucked
Oyster, where people are like, will this work with 5e? And it's like, yes,
but
it'll take a little bit of adapting, like some stat blocks and things like that.
but this is always what you do for anything.
Yeah,
Even in your own game, there is no platonic form of the city of Neverwinter, right?
Right.
So even if you read about the city of Neverwinter in a Forgotten Realms source book, or if you're adapting a module or an adventure path or
anything
third-party character options, like you're already doing some legwork yourself to do that.
But
It's not legwork isn't even really the right word, because it's
not difficult.
it's not difficult at all.
Yeah. So out of the box, it's not going to just work with 5e for sure.
Right.
But like, you can take the ideas of it, which can be put into any system and use it there.
Correct.
And you can do that with pretty much anything. Like, obviously, you're probably not going to bring cyberpunk material into a medieval setting.
Right.
You're probably not going to do that. But if you found a character that was interesting, that you could take part of the concept out, you can put that in, no problem.
Right. Johnny Silverhand doesn't exist in Dragonlance.
Right.
But if you wanted to have some kind of rabble-rousing, devil-may-care guy in the spirit who has the attitude, the personality, the sort of the vibe of Johnny Silverhand, like that,
his spirit of
that's a human being. He can exist in a different milieu.
Right. So it's not, in my opinion, and this is the other thing, a lot of games, people will say, oh, that's a really hard game to learn, unless it's like Burning Wheel, because that sounds miserable. Games are generally not too hard to learn, the concepts of. And if you've played role-playing games in the past, most of the time you're going to have a fairly easy time learning a new system. And it's not that hard to translate things into different systems. So if you have modules for one system and you start playing in a new system, but you really like some of the ideas from those modules,
Which people do
you can bring
all
them
the
into
time.
your game. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, Macrease basically says if you're building, like in Axe, he in the Judge's Journal, it has this big section. It's also an Arbiter of Worlds of building a setting and the initial sandbox area for your players to play in, and creating this kind of like web of points of interest. He's like, you don't have to make every dungeon yourself, and you shouldn't. If you have a bunch of old modules,
if you want
adapt
to run Keep the Borderlands in 5e,
Right.
and they've probably actually
I
done
think
that
there
for
is,
5e.
there is,
But
yeah.
before that,
And they're burying it in the Pet Cemetery and bringing it back for the new edition.
many such cases,
Yeah.
again and again and again. But before they put out that product, again, even the fact that like writers and developers did that in the first place is evidence that you can do that too.
Right.
Okay, there's a big dungeon complex. I do have a map here in this old, decades old module. The stats are different for orcs and goblins and ogres and whatnot. But I can use the stats in the new game, the new edition of the game, or any analog for whatever game I'm using right now, and pretty effortlessly. Okay,
I'll be right back. Continue. Yep.
There's a cave system outside of a few miles outside of town. There are these different factions of competing monsters and tribes and what have you. You can easily do that, and it's no different with the Shucked Oyster or the Cults of Zahak. Obviously, Shucked Oyster, it's for Shadow Dark, and Shadow Dark has a particular kind of it's a game. It has its own mechanics. But if you really want to run, and you should want to run use the Shucked Oyster in your world, in your game, the premise of a cursed, wild and crazy brothel and all of these wild and crazy characters, sure, they can fit.
Yeah, and
different game.
There's also things like this, which is the Glorantha source book for RuneQuest. This is the newer edition that I got for my birthday. This is completely system neutral.
Mechanicsless,
There's no mechanics in it, but this is, and the intent is, if you want to run games in the world of Glorantha without using the RuneQuest rules, this is what
Here's
you
the
reference.
world.
Yeah, here's the world. So you can adapt anything. You really can. And
So in that case,
short
answer no, long answer yes.
Yeah, exactly. Probably be up to GMs to figure out. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But the other thing is there's a lot of D100 fantasy games.
That is
and it
also
will
true.
work very easily with those. Can't wait for Zahak. You're goddamn
Hell yeah.
right. What's up, everybody? Zahak would never be late for a stream, but BLG will. No, Zahak would just ruin your computer so it doesn't work before the stream. Zahak would wear shoes on camera. Wrong. Shoes off in solidarity. Exactly. How's it going,
Damn
Primeval
right.
Fantasy?
What's up?
Let's see here. We got Spencer here playing
What's going on,
playing
man?
Mythras. It's going
Yeah.
really well.
A
How late
giant
will
of a man,
StreamYard?
if you will.
Well, here's the thing. Today, because we were meeting with the basic expert and we were going to use StreamYard, we were having the same issue. I couldn't change any camera inputs or audio inputs, and so I updated the OS on the computer, and it worked. So we shouldn't have any StreamYard problems after that anymore, until it decides to, give us more problems. Live chat is best chat. Yeah. Great video on Mythras. I have to buy the book and sink my teeth in. Good.
Hell yeah.
And if you do buy the book, go to the Design Mechanism website, designmechanism.com, or thedesignmechanism.com, and use promo code BlackLodge15 for 15% off your order.
Yes.
I forgot to mention a while ago, if you got my dono from like 4 to 5 weeks ago. Potentially?
Maybe?
I don't know. I would assume we did. If it's like sometimes we've had like a super chat come in like after the stream, like right as we turned off the stream, that does come in. So if that was the case, then yes.
And
Here
thank
for
you
the
for
BROZER. Nice. You will get a discussion of the BROZER. Are they going to invert colors like it's a 70s music video? No, that is a way of checking exposure on the camera. Got Mythras and classic fantasy books this week. I'm in.
Oh, hell yeah.
Very, very cool. Classic fantasy is really interesting.
Yeah.
The more I'm reading it, the more that I like it, but I'm not sure I'll ever run it.
Mythras is just so good, and it does exactly what I want, but I'm hugely impressed that they were able to take this the typical D&D class level based advancement system and
translate
really make it not only just translate it to the Mythras
but make it
rules and make it compelling.
Yeah.
The levels of your class actually make sense in the world and require roleplay, which is always anything that requires roleplay has my vote.
Right. But it is very cool. When I read BROZER, I keep thinking of ya bunch of Hoosers. Yeah. Basically made a suggestion for a video you guys could do every September. Top 5 RPG systems you've played in the past year and recommend playing and picking up right now. Okay. We might do something like that.
Gave us not ChatGPT, but YouTube AI gave us a great idea for a banger video.
This is so funny. So I tweeted a bunch of these out because YouTube has this new AI feature where it's like you can do research on what your audience wants to see, and it suggested that we do a top 10 RPGs that you need to play in 2023. So we were like, you don't understand. You have to go back and play these games. There was some really funny shit in there.
Yeah.
And it did give us potentially an actual good idea, sort of. But yeah, the top 5 RPG game thing, we can do that, but it's a kind of a more boring topic to us.
Yeah, like honestly, we've talked about the only games we've played this year.
Yeah.
Axe, Prowlers and Paragons, Mythras, Star Trek.
And Star Trek. Yeah, did we play anything else?
No.
Horde Wars and Lone Wolf Fists.
Yeah.
Before the year is out, I want to run Streets of Peril. Really badly. That could also be a good Halloween option.
That's true.
Because we were thinking Nick would run Call of Cthulhu, but Streets of Peril might be good too, because that's also
might be really good. Yeah,
really good stuff. But the thing is, the way that we make videos is that we make the things that we're most interested in at a given time. And we have plans for certain videos that we're going to get to. Like we will make a video on the Sabbat and VTM, but it just hasn't really. Like we were talking about that, and we started talking about the Anarchs, and then Nick kind of hit on the idea of like the Anarchs should be awesome. And
Yeah.
that was the video we decided to make. Generally agreeing with X-Dude that war games are RPGs and RPGs are war games.
I disagree.
I think they're distinct. There's overlap for sure.
Yep.
And obviously common DNA. But I do think that they're distinct
part of the
things.
same family, but distinctly different branches on the tree.
Right. Especially after the Brotech game he ran, me and for a few other players, that game really opened my eyes.
Nice.
Yeah. I like BattleTech. I played it one time and lost because we rolled so bad. But it was a lot of fun. BROZER the Brozerian, BROZER the Destructor, Vulgus the Travelers Come, Choose and Perish. Interesting.
Ghostbusters. Gozer the
Jeff Rose
Gozerian.
here. How's it going, man? Braunstein is the missing link to make both RPGs and war games come to life. It's very weird that it disappeared. It is weird that it disappeared.
It is weird.
And we will get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
More to say.
Exactly. I'd like to hear you guys talk more about your home games. We talk pretty consistently about
Yeah.
not a ton of details.
Well, I mean,
I posted a bunch of the crazy stuff that my players have done on Twitter.
We can maybe do that if there's an interest for it at some point. Like do I don't know, a retrospective.
We probably should.
Yeah. That's not
because things are coming to a head. In the
That
game.
is true. That is true.
But then it may be that you can't put Braunstein into a box and then sell it over and over. I think you're wrong about that.
Big wrong.
I think you're wrong about that. And while I think this is very cool that BROZER is free and the reasons for it being free are admirable and totally down with that.
Don't leave money on the table.
Don't leave money on the table because I think you guys could come up with some really, really, really cool scenarios.
And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit.
But we will. But you could sell it, and making profit is good, is what I'll say.
Correct.
Money is not bad.
Excellent. Hell yeah, man.
To make it compatible with 5e, doesn't it become a gay brothel? There is Evan, who is one of our players in our Axe game. I've yet to DM GM. I'm scared. Why?
Don't.
I mean, I get like some nerves. If you have, this is like when people are like, I've had people tell me this, like, oh man, I don't think I could ever be like a waiter or a waitress. Like that, it just seems
Have
really
you seen
hard.
the type of people who are waiters and
I know,
waitresses?
I'm like, it's not hard. If you have
I
been
pick
to a
up the
restaurant,
thing, I carry it.
yeah, if you have been to a restaurant, you know what they do.
Right.
They write down, hopefully,
Yeah.
they write down your order, and then they go put it in the computer, and then the kitchen makes it, and they bring the
carry
food
it out.
Yeah. It's really not complicated. It
yeah.
can be busy. It can be like, because I
Busy,
waited and
stressful, I'm
bartended
sure,
for a very,
but-
very long time. Busy and stressful. It's not hard.
It's not hard. And a big reason why we talk about this in our you're not a director, you're a game master video. There's this kind of, what would you say? It's there's this false glorification of the eternal struggle of the game master, the lone sweating hours of prepping, the slavish toil that goes into making a compelling session. That's not the correct dynamic.
No.
And it's no wonder that people are intimidated, and it's no wonder that people get burnt out doing it this way.
Because it's described as though it's a job.
Yeah, actually, Ryan Howard and Crafty Matt were on the Orcus Dorcas stream yesterday talking about zero prep, and they are 100% correct.
Yeah. If you which I think what they were saying was, if you read the books, that is also prep, and you shouldn't do that. That's generally what Crafty tells people, is not to read the books. One of my new players had decided she wants to DM. I'm kind of excited about it, as it means I get to play. It also means I'm successfully spreading the good word. Nice.
Good.
Yeah, we also had one of our players who'd never DM'd started running Star Trek Adventures for us, which was very fun. And I think she's going to be pretty good at it.
I'm playing
All right,
Mandorian.
Malachi's here. We can start. Thank you. I'm used to 2015 sentiments when it comes to RPGs since that's when I started playing. I don't know what that means. Sound like the advice ignored when Shadowrun was created. Also don't know what that... Oh, for mixing settings and whatnot.
I like the Shadowrun setting.
Yeah, well, because we were saying you probably wouldn't bring Johnny Silverhand back in time, but you can bring elves.
You can bring it's not you can't reverse it both ways. You can bring elves and dwarves forward. You can't bring Johnny Silverhand back.
Yeah. No cyberpunk and medieval settings. Victor Gorchev would like to have a word. No. He's bringing fantasy to sci-fi.
See, that's the way time works.
Yeah. They already did an update of Keep on the Borderlands for the silver anniversary. I'm cautiously optimistic on the new one. Hopefully it'd be nice. But I just don't trust them. Mm-hmm. The update is 500 times bigger than the original module B2. Oof.
You need all those feats, all those racial abilities, all those doodads.
You need a bunch of shit in there that doesn't need to be there. The Shucked Oyster and the Keep on the Borderlands. You can put the Shucked Oyster anywhere you want.
Yep.
In fact, Victor
It would make
Gorchev,
Keep on the Borderlands interesting.
Victor Gorchev has talked about potentially having us convert the Shucked Oyster into like a goth nightclub. In like a
like a cyberpunk deal.
Yeah, which would be cool. Isn't that the second edition of Glorantha you got? That is true. That's exactly what I was talking about. Love that I got a Kamala ad on your stream. Way to grift, boys. Yeah. Well, it's okay. If we get any super chats, President Biden will be here to read them. Sadly, she got more funding for advertising. I'm constantly seeing her ads on Tubi and Pluto. I basically don't watch TV except for I'm watching Star Trek the original series right now, which is awesome because it's the first time I've seen it. And Opera is successfully blocking ads, whereas ad block plugins aren't. Interesting. Here's the thing. I like ad block plugins. I hope you guys, figure out how to not have ads. Oh geez, we got.
After you never met the party before, decides to finish off a piece that is bleeding out. An ability diverts them 2 of 3 attacks down new PDM decides to use third to finish new downed character.
NPC never met the party before, decides to finish off a player character that is bleeding out. An ability diverts them and 2 of 3 attacks down the new player character. DM decides to use third to finish new downed character.
Seems fair to me.
Yeah, I mean, is the enemy going to pull its punch?
If they wanted you dead.
Thank you for the $10.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Or if it was a wild animal or a monster, mindless undead. I don't know who or what it was,
right.
But it was they
Generally,
were already trying to kill you.
Yeah.
And they won.
TOS is awesome. That is correct. Don't read the books, Crafty, all the time. Exactly. What makes your vision for Anarchs distinct from your vision for Sabat? They share a lot of "I won't obey your rules" DNA.
You'll have to see.
But
they are very different.
There's a big obvious difference. Is that one of them is like no step on snake, don't tread on me, and the other one is I am a psychotic blood cultist that knows that the ancient blood gods are coming back,
right?
And I'm waging a holy war. So there's significant
differences in terms of motivation.
Yeah,
and what they're fighting against.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. This week we need to start a fishnets funds for you. Yeah.
Speaking of fish, I will say I am the proud owner. I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh yeah. What's that say?
ANCAPs versus Antifa.
In captions, this is Antifa.
Thank you, President Biden, for that very accurate reading.
More accurate reading. Not quite.
Not really. Not really.
Yeah.
Although, let's see here. Malachi says, no, Crafty tells people to read the book. Read the fucking manual. I don't think that's what he says. But I did see somewhere up here that you played BRP. I can officially say I've played BRP now, and I like it. Nice.
Nice.
BRP is good. It's just not a ready-to-play game. Because it's a toolkit for building a game, in my opinion. Because there's too many optional systems in the book that you can't just sit down and say, let's play BRP.
Yeah, in Mythras, because Mythras doesn't, we've said this before, Mythras does not have an explicit setting, but it does have an implicit setting.
Yeah.
BRP, and this is what they're trying to do. It does not have
any setting.
Any setting.
Because
it
it's
has
supposed to do
superheroes,
anything. Yeah.
Modern day, or grounded historical game, fantasy. So you really do need to anchor BRP down to something, even more than you do Mythras.
Yeah. I also used your discount code so the design mechanism knows you're getting the word out.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
And good. Yeah. Save money.
Yeah. It's hard to run more than 2 or 3 RPGs well in a year. Yeah. If you're doing like campaigns or multiple sessions, for sure. Unless there are systems that you have lots of experience running already, you know, and you're doing one shots or whatever. But yeah, that's the thing why it's like I do have a lot of games that I have not played that I would like to play it someday, but it is a matter of opportunity, cost, and time.
Yeah.
Fishnet Fund. Yeah. Oh, you're getting the Fishblade.
Fishblade.
Yeah. Fishblade RPG.
Best RPG. I haven't read it yet, but I have it on good authority that it's the best role-playing game ever made.
Yeah.
And the end of history is here.
Yeah. And we backed it on Kickstarter.
Yeah. I got the t-shirt. I don't have it yet.
I got the PDF for $1. So
for $1. I don't.
Yeah.
I think I got the PDF and I paid like $25 for the Kickstarter or the t-shirt. Best $20 I've ever spent in my life.
Yeah. Nerves, scattered brain, choice paralysis. My biggest issues with commitment. I started as a ref because we needed one, and I freaking love it. Nice, good.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like being a GM shouldn't be a thankless job. It shouldn't be something that you dread doing. Right. It actually should be fun. It should be the most fun in many regards.
Yeah, and sent my new Mythras video to the Axe players this morning, and they've got the bug. Nice. I would suggest keep playing Axe though, because it is excellent. And if you're playing Axe 2 and you want special effects, basically, they're not the same, but there is an optional critical hit system in the Judge's Journal, which uses like exploding 20s basically on your D20. And if you get over a certain amount, you can use some of the like combat maneuvers, like tripping people, disarming them, blah, blah, blah. You can add that on. And I may be getting that a little bit wrong, but that is basically how I remember reading that. Most people were really wanting to say they would prefer not to be waiters and waitresses. Doesn't really answer the question why people won't think being a DM is hard. Well,
don't think being a DM is hard.
Okay, so this was the comparison, is that people are like, oh man, DMing, I'm so scared. And it's like, you already, just like if you've been to a restaurant, you know how to be a waiter. If you've played in a role-playing game, you largely know how to run a game. Right. There's more to it, but it's mostly just a matter of the scope of what you're doing, not really like
it's not a completely different skill
activity.
Set.
Yeah.
Right.
Macrease already did B2 better. That is correct. AX1 Sinister Stone of Sakara, which we're still in that area. But we started with Sinister Stone. It was very, very good. It's an excellent module. The Shucked Oyster in Cyberpunk could be awesome. It could be.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing, is that Victor is very good on bringing magic and stuff into the Cyberpunk world.
Right.
And into every setting. And I think you would need magic for the Shucked Oyster to work.
You would. It would. There are some aspects where you need to put your thinking cap on, but it can be done.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like you wouldn't explain it with science. That'd be stupid.
No, yeah, you would not. It would have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do use it with science, you will be blocked. Will you make a supplement for thirsty sword lesbians? No.
Definitely not.
Reading is hard. Why would I do it exactly? It was a demon and we'd never met them before. There was a whole ass fight to win and it ignored it to coup de grace a downed PC rather than try to win. Other PC spends a resource and challenges it.
I mean, if it's a demon, that seems totally in character. I want to immiserate you as much as is possible.
Right.
And if I'm a demon, I can just come back.
Right.
Why wouldn't I let you live? Let the rest of you live with the knowledge that you can't really kill me. At least not in a combat, per se.
Right. I felt like finishing off downed PCs rather than leaving them alone when downed is a bit of a faux pas. A down PC is a mechanical challenge. A dead PC is not. I don't know. I mean, it just depends on how you're role-playing the enemies because it's a brutal world out there. And I will say, in the Shucked Oyster, there is a very large demon that has the ability called Banana Split because he's a giant purple chimpanzee demon, where if you are incapacitated in Shadow Dark and you're on your death timer, if he strikes you again, then he rips your body in half in a shower of gore and you're instantly dead.
And he
your
would.
death timer doesn't work. And he would do that.
He would do that.
Yeah.
He is a demon.
Right.
And a demon definitely does not care about good play or fair matters.
We're using the optional critical hits and exploding 20s rules. We love it. Definitely will never abort our axe game. Nice. But I am trying to broaden their horizons in general. Cool. Yeah, then in that case, definitely...
if you got
get doing
room
Mythras.
on the docket,
So
by all
awesome.
means.
Yeah. I came to an epiphany and know how now that you can port Darkest Dungeon characters as classes into Shadow Dark. See? Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody can do it. Not everybody, but anyone who's watching this stream is capable of doing it.
Ooh.
We all know the thirsty sword lesbians are political lesbians. Ones that aren't sexually attracted to women but get with them for equity reasons.
Not wrong.
Yeah. Banana Split. That's hilarious. It is hilarious because the Shucked Oyster is hilarious.
That's true.
But you should still take it seriously when you're playing because that's going to make it more funny. If you lean into it.
There are humorous aspects, but it is not a lol so random piece of millennial trash.
Right.
Even though we are millennials.
Biden dropping red pills. Yeah. I'm also a lot nicer to new DMs than I am experienced ones, as you should be.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
you really should be. The big thing is, as a new GM, you just do your best. The players are most likely there to have fun, so they won't be overly critical or nitpicky unless you're actively being horrible. Yes.
Right.
Yes. This is also why play with your friends, play with people that you know. Don't play with fucking weirdos who are gonna, did you see that? It's probably fake, but the Reddit thing where someone was like, this new DM was like, they were holding like a tryout for this DM for the group, and she put like 18 hours into her one shot, like 18 hours of prep and work, and then they basically just fired her on the spot and were like, never play with us again. And it was this big thing.
Well, why would you even want to be around these people?
Yeah,
probably didn't
even
happen. Yeah.
But if it did, you should never be those people. That's fucking horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You should always be nice to people unless they give you a compelling reason not to be. That's my way of looking at it. Re-Axe 2, the custom combat says that if you exceed your attack by 10 or more, you do double damage and also roll a d10 to get a free critical effect. Yes.
Evan is correct.
It also has an optional rule of exploding 20s. Yeah. Sure, the lesbians desperately need a talented writer. After BLG, I don't know. The DM's list of rules once he got sick of his players' shit. Oh, yeah, that was funny too. The story is fake, but it's probably true, which is the best kind of true story. My players go feral when they get the exploding 20. Way bigger reaction than a plain old crit like in 5e. Nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we should start doing that.
I thought we broached the topic early on. We can revisit it.
Yeah, we broached it in that I think I mentioned it, and then you asked, "Are we going to do that?" And I said, "No, absolutely not. We have all these other rules to deal with,"
which is always true.
Which was the correct decision at the time.
Yeah.
Can't read that one. Split by a demonic gorilla's banana. I think I saw. Okay, come on. You fucking weebs. Exploding dice are based.
That
I
is
agree.
true.
They
Love
are
exploding dice.
Very based. I love exploding dice. But, and I just realized that I don't have the screen sharing set up. But I think we can start talking about the actual topic now. And of course, it's way too small to see the file name. BROZER. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not going to screen share this, but you guys can click the
free
link.
online. You can
I think you
follow along
can
at home.
figure out how to open the PDF on your own. You can click and follow along if you'd like, but
Yeah, and this isn't a read through per se.
yeah, we're not
anyway.
going to read the whole thing. But there are. So this was put together by a bunch of the different people in the BROZER. So Jeffro and Dubs wrote a couple of the big essays in it. Jeffro, I think, wrote 2 of them. The opening one on how to run a Braunstein. Then Dubs does another one on a little bit more of advice on like specifically how to run this one, and then Jeffro has a
closing statement.
A closing section on how to run mass combat using basically any D&D rule set, which was very cool because I've heard them talk about this for like a year and didn't know how to do it and was wondering how they did.
I feel that way about the entire Braunstein thing.
Well,
It's
yes.
like, I don't understand really what the hell anybody is talking about.
It's like the
Finally.
last like 2 weeks or 3 weeks they've been like there's this huge argument on about like total nonstop Braunstein and
Yeah.
is this a vibe or is it an actual thing? How does this differ? You know, are we just throwing the rules in the trash now? I still don't know what total nonstop Braunstein is.
Yeah.
Like I just don't.
Or what the verdict is.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
No one knows.
Yeah, but I will say that Night Danger argued a lot, and then I think he apologized, which we do not endorse.
Yeah.
Apologies. But what I will say about this, this is free. The introduction,
free.
it tells you why
It
it's
is very
free,
interesting.
which is a little bit of it was because of some of the drama surrounding Griff, who and the owner of DaveCon, who were talking that
All the bullshit.
everyone's violating the intellectual property rights of David Wesley and everything.
Whatever.
Complete bullshit.
Yeah.
And so this was released basically because they love the game and they love what they're doing and they want the hobby to be better and to share this and for this to kind of take off, which is awesome. We definitely support that.
Correct.
And so Jeffro gives, let me find this. Running your first faction, Braunstein, is the opening essay. And we had Jeffro on recently, not too long ago, to talk about some of his developments and thoughts on like the Battle Braunstein, and then when he kind of stopped playing AD&D for a while and was playing Traveler and doing all of these experiments. And so this opening essay actually explains exactly what it is that they've been doing for the last like 3 years. And because even since we started interacting with the bros maybe a year and a half ago ish, what they're doing now versus what they were doing then has changed considerably. But he basically explains what the concept is, and offers like these 3 different kind of approaches to how it's been done by the bros so far, which is like having basically all of your friends over for this kind of one night Battle Braunstein sort of party game event, or doing more of a which is like really unstructured, and so it's very much like the original Braunstein, where you've got referees taking players aside and players are wheeling and dealing, you know, without the referee there, and kind of how to corral that and what you're going to have to do in terms of time and whatnot. And the second is more, if I'm not forgetting this properly, it's a little bit more of kind of like what Harmony did with the Godstein, which is doing. I'm gonna be
Like
going
high
back and
level
forth with Stein and
patron
Stein.
plays stuff.
But like a turn based, like we have.
Oh,
we have
the
turns.
timekeeping. Yeah.
And then the last one being kind of what they were known for last year, which is more of kind of the ongoing campaign patron play where the Braunstein element is always kind of on. And I've probably gotten some of this wrong or something. But they're all explained very well. And this is something that, until very recently, we've been kind of like, I still don't get what you're
welcome
doing.
surprise to get a
It was
clear
welcome.
answer.
So if you have been confused about anything that they've said and about how they want to run the game and what they think the importance is, you definitely should read this because it's much, much more clear and is kind of the crystallization
Right.
of everything that's come together. And you can like sense Jeffro's excitement in the writing. Like that really, really comes through. Like these people really want you to play a game like this and basically have the kind of incredible experiences that they have had with it. Which is kind of like what we like to do here. We want the immersive experience. We want other people to have that, and as often and for as long as possible. But it is different than what we want to do.
It's different than what we're talking about. It is also, obviously it's different from what the sort of normie game is.
It's definitely different than
explicitly
that.
the point.
Yeah.
It is different than a war game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do you want to do this? Do you want to?
I think
do you
we
want
should
us
explain.
to just give
So it's not-
our take on what they're saying.
Yeah, let's do that, but I do want to get through just kind of what the rest of it is. So this, it's not just like essays and explaining what they're doing.
Right, the
This
essays
is
open it up and
they
there's-
open it up, but this is a scenario basically for you to play, and it's a very
It's a small sandbox. There's
Yeah.
a hex map of an island.
there's a
You can
recent
put it
calamity
anywhere. Yeah,
with
there's a
a MacGuffin to chase,
which is the MacGuffin is literally called the MacGuffin Stone.
Yeah.
It's
But they make the point that the details of the setting aren't important. Not that the details of the setting to a Braunstein would be unimportant, but for the purpose of taking this idea and running with it, like not to get too caught up in the details. And it's described in a little bit silly of a way. What do we
well, that
got here?
I'm actually not.
Just essays, poor favor.
It's not just essays.
No.
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 It is an actual scenario with a shitload of factions for you to play. And
There's
the idea,
12 of them, right?
I think
there's
so.
12.
There's a bunch of major factions.
There's major
There's-
and minor
and minor
factions,
factions.
and at least I can't recall if all of them, but certainly the major factions are all nominally associated with good, neutral, and evil alignments.
Yeah.
as
So
well.
they have a bunch of. The idea is to get people into PvP.
Right.
And the way that you do that is that your factions already have opposing goals. They have opposing alignments, and it's system neutral. So they do have like.
Yeah, the advice
They
that's
have
given is to.
they have very minor things for each of the characters in the faction. It might say like, fighter level 7, something like that. You're meant to put this
Yes.
into your own system, and not to get
Right.
too caught up on the details of like, well, how do I actually do that?
And it assumes you're using a pre second edition or something similar.
Yeah, or like
within
an
the OSR space.
retro clone, something along those lines.
Right.
A fantasy D&D kind of like game.
Correct.
And the idea is that each player takes control of a faction. And so I think that basically means that you're playing the faction leader, and then this is what Jeffro clarified to me. You're playing the faction leader, and then when there are battles and mass combats and things like that, the more minor characters can be kind of the leaders of like troop formations and things like that.
Sure.
I also assume that like if your faction leader dies, like if you get killed in the scenario by another player or something like that, you could probably take over like one of the minor characters in your faction. But each faction
I would
has
imagine so.
has its own goals, its own interests, and they talk about basically like your Braunstein needs an inciting incident. This is an opportunity to get people, player versus player, get rid of the get along gang. You need an inciting incident. In this case, it's the
This
MacGuffin
MacGuffin
Stone.
Stone.
Everybody thinks
wants
it can
this
do
one thing.
different things. And
What it can do is not specified again. It's
it
a
doesn't matter.
MacGuffin stone.
It is a MacGuffin stone. There was something interesting, though, because everybody's written a different part of this. And the factions... What do you got here?
Mass combat.
More like
Got
ass
him.
combat. Yeah, you got him. Thank you for the $2. But the so it's written
voice-
by a ton of different people. So there's these two
and
essays,
you can tell
and
the
then
different
each
voice
faction-
and the different
advice.
actual advice
Yeah.
and the assumptions.
Right.
So if you're confused about what the bros are doing, don't worry. So are they.
Yeah, because it's like Dubs. I think recommends. He's like, look, you're gonna have this inciting incident,
I have
and
nothing to say, and I'm saying it.
You sure did.
thank you for the $5.
Thank you, man.
But his advice is that there's you need this inciting incident, but the players might not bite on it. They might not care. They might get more interested in like the goals that were outlined in their faction. And that's okay. And run with that. Like you will find a way as they're pursuing their goals. You're going to find basically this kind of what they call convergence, which is where all of the kind of different interests, or at least several of them, are going to kind of converge into something interesting. And that's when you as the GM latch on and say, okay, that's now basically what the Braunstein is about. But then Kirsova in his is like,
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's not that it doesn't matter. It's like, just don't pay attention to the faction goals. Like, stay on target.
Get in the game.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
All right. Cool. All right.
Loud and clear. It hurt you. But there's, like we said, there's a lot of factions in this. So that's the majority of what this thing is, so that you can take this idea and you could directly use this very, very, very loose setting that they have, or you could adapt the loose goals and plot lines into your own setting, or you could come up with your own MacGuffin. The point is that they have outlined here, basically, these are the people that you're going to play, and we've set up enough conflict already that this is going to be an epic PvP event.
Right. And the way the conflict is laid out here, the goal is for people to just pick this up, try it out.
Right,
So
try it, yeah.
They were correct in, if I'm getting this right, diverging from sort of the original Braunstein dynamic, which is different factions having different goals that are happening in
right.
the same place. You can, of course, do that, but with this, because it is a MacGuffin, there is one thing everybody wants. Obviously, only one person can have it. We all have that goal of getting this extremely scarce resource.
It's like it's zero sum.
It's zero sum. Only one person can have it.
And they talk about how to like score a Braunstein and find out like who won, and it was basically like, don't actually try to score it. They've tried doing point values for certain things, and it's like it just apparently was dog shit. Which I think was Dubs' first Fishstein. I think.
I don't even know what that is.
He set the I read most of it. It's this big session report on his first Battle Braunstein. And he had set point values for goals where it's like you need to defeat an army of battle rating, twice of what you had or something like that. Apparently that didn't work out. But they basically say that like it'll pretty much be clear who won the Braunstein, even if like the goal of the Braunstein changed during the course of the Braunstein. And I think I know what they mean. That there's going to be someone who clearly comes out on top or does
Right.
something, is the last man standing, did the most dastardly things.
I didn't get the MacGuffin stone either, but I did kill you in your faction.
Right.
So I clearly,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or I rug pulled you in the most
right.
fun, creative way possible.
possible.
Yeah. And if this is sounding fun to you, it's because it does sound fun.
Yes.
This does sound very interesting and very fun. And there's a lot to work with here. And like I said, the last part of it is Jeffro explaining how to do basic mass combat using very, very minor changes to your core combat system. And that was very cool. Very, very cool. So you can
Right,
actually play out
right,
battles and
right.
whatnot, because each of these factions has troops at their disposal.
Right. This is where the wargaming aspect comes into it. Right.
So it's this big clash of conflicting interests, or as he has said, it is multiple independent actors acting in conflict under a fog of war.
Right.
Which I think is an excellent description of what this is. So, given that,
this is very interesting. I now have a much clearer idea of exactly how this works and the sort of differences of opinion with regard to how much does story matter, character motivation matter, and some of these slight variations. It's pretty clear that the goal of a Braunstein is, at least from the Bros perspective, what they're trying to maximize, the experience that they're trying to chase is PvP conflict.
Yeah.
That is, and whatever we need to do to sort of make that happen, I think it would be fair to say is sort of regarded as a good in and of itself, largely speaking, because that's the experience.
right.
This is very interesting. What makes it most interesting to me and to you, we've talked about this all day. The most interesting thing is that this Braunstein play style is not what the Bros are billing it as, largely speaking, because this is not a role-playing game.
Yeah.
This is also not strictly a war game. This is something different and unique.
Yeah.
Like war games, they are related to role-playing games. But no one would confuse the two. And so the tack that the Bros have been sort of championing this style as sort of being the true culmination of Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games in general, I think is short-selling what they really have discovered.
Yeah.
Or rediscovered, what have you. Brought this back to the fore. It's way more interesting to me that there's something new here.
Yeah.
I'm aware of many different role-playing games. I've been doing it for a while, not as long as some other people, but there's a lot of sameness across genres, across game systems. There's even many similarities between simulationist games, sort of normie D&D games, narrativist games. They are much more clearly within a single family of
they're on the same branch
of activity. They're on the same branch. This is a branch of the, whatever you want to call this hobby tree, whatever the trunk from which all of this stuff sprung, that has sort of been stunted and
dead for
decades. For decades.
Yeah. What do we got
Twitter
here?
is my favorite platform.
For PvP.
Yeah.
Kickstarter comment sections when a product is 6 months late is a close second.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
You should do a Braunstein about that.
Yeah. So that's what was most interesting to me when I read through this.
Right.
This is cool. So this is something very different.
Yeah.
But
and what Jeffro has said very often, is that like everybody basically like this idea of the Braunstein, like it's probably baked into the, early D&D and all of that, but was immediately left to the wayside. And I think he's 100% right about that.
It clearly did, right? We don't talk about this.
Yeah. It took, Griff's, I almost said movie.
His YouTube video. His web
video.
zone
Yeah,
video.
his web zone. To kind of bring this back into the public consciousness.
Right.
And it's way more interesting to me and to you that this is like igniting or bringing back to life this dead branch. And I think you guys should take that. And I know this is already what you're doing, but take that branch as far as it can go
Because that's going to be way more interesting. It's going to be way more compelling, and it's going to be way more true.
Because I don't think that this is the solution to all the RPG problems or anything like that.
It just isn't. That's
isn't.
not the truth.
But not only is that not the truth, that would be so much less interesting.
Yes. Yes.
It's like than doing something that is basically original, which is not
Difference
common
between all these
at
games
all.
is what the goal is. War games will preserve the fairness of the war. Story games will preserve the story. The freestyle role play can have many different foundations.
Difference between all these games is what the goal is. War games will preserve the fairness of the war. Story games will preserve the story. Freestyle will... The
difference is in what they're trying to achieve.
What is the goal of the game?
Right.
Which is not what is the character's goal, but it's really it's
a war game experience is trying not simulate. It's trying to, I'm just going to say actualize, because I'm the word isn't coming to me. The activity that it's trying to make happen is a warfare typically one-on-one competition between player armies, right? To determine there's typically, a win state. Someone wins, the other person loses.
Yeah, it's a purely competitive.
You're trying to do a one-on-one PvP combat in that way. A role-playing game, you are trying to immerse yourself into a character. Obviously, if you've been on our channel, we think that almost everybody is getting it wrong.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that is you're trying to be a character in a world.
Yeah.
With this, it's different. It has, the DNA of both in it.
Right.
But this is different.
It's a different
more
evolutionary branch.
Yeah, this is a more formless, a more dynamic, a more organic, multi-party.
It's the Sasquatch
competition. Yes, you might say, it is the missing link. You might say it's the Bigfoot.
Yeah, the Bigfoot. No, but it's very interesting. It's very cool, and like we said, it's not. It is related. There is overlap, as there is overlap between role-playing games and war games. There is overlap with Braunstein and all of this. But
right
from my perspective, you're absolutely right. Like role-playing games, as we know them, are just on a completely different track than what this
Correct.
is.
I mean, everybody knows that, right? What are the various lineages of sort of this hobby? There is wargaming. It has similarities with this Braunstein type of play. It does have similarities with role-playing games. There were mass combat rules, and there still are mass combat rules in many different games. No one would mistake a war game for a role-playing game.
In most
no
cases.
No one would mistake a LARP, which is also it's on the family tree of the hobby. No one would confuse a role-playing game with a LARP or with a war game.
Yeah.
But we already know this. It's not even really worth discussing, right? We know this to be true self-evidently.
Yeah, and this is something.
But this is something that just hasn't been. Eyes haven't been on it for so long. Right,
and especially not using role-playing game systems like this, because it's like Mr. Wargaming, Joy of Wargaming channel has in his Braunstein video that he made over a year ago at this point, he does say that like this kind of tradition of this independent actors acting in conflict under fog of war was kind of preserved by the vampire people,
which is true
in LARP. Yeah, which is true. Like they were doing these very big, like massively multiplayer, multi-referee, free-form, crazy conflicts every week, basically.
Yeah, it's a competition. It could very easily be every single person. Obviously, in a vampire LARP, you're doing Vampire the Masquerade. You're playing a character. You're not doing patron play, but it could be every single person.
It's much closer to the kind of chaotic nature of Braunstein sitting down to play vampire
Yeah,
around
and so
the table.
this, so like vampire has more. It's carried more of the DNA unknowingly. I would likely say.
100%.
It's just it obviously would be that way in the nature of what a vampire is.
Right. But that largely died out too because vampire is not as popular as it used to be.
Vampire's not as popular, and as
the people playing
cringe as
it-
LARPs are, and as cringe as World of Darkness.
Yeah.
I know. Believe me, I know. After COVID, a lot of that went away as
Right.
well. With
But
LARP.
so there was LARP, but then there was also what you've brought up and you've participated in.
Yes.
And this is another thing because we did do one of these.
The bro should look into these things, vampire LARP, and not
think
necessarily to do them, but
They should definitely do
They
them.
should definitely do them. That'd be very funny. But
and I think someone is running a vampire Braunstein one now, which is I really want to hear about that. But again, it was like early 2010s. There was the big YouTube Vampire Masquerade experiment.
YouTube experiment, yeah.
which was very much this sort of thing, except that they had their fingers on the scales, the people running
Right,
it, which was
right.
really fucking lame. And part of the reason that it fell apart.
a big reason. You might say
A big
the
reason. Yeah. But you had brought up this thing to me like probably a year ago. You were just talking about Gen
Yeah.
Con, which was, what was it, the National Security?
So it's the national security decision-making game.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly who's in charge of this. It's not a product that you can buy, as near as I can tell. But
Yeah, it's just
they've
run
been
at
doing
cons. Yeah.
big cons for a very long time, over 10 years for sure, probably 15 years, maybe more. I don't know. But I played in that the first year I went to Gen Con, which maybe was, I don't know, 2012, 2013 or something. So a while ago. And it's modern day real politics, and it's patron play basically, and it's a massive ballroom of like 40 plus people. I don't remember how long it was, 5 hours maybe.
Yeah. And it's like everybody's given a character with goals.
You might
a character. It's like
I might be the CIA, and
Yeah.
you might be the New York Times,
Yeah.
and Bob might be the Russian oligarchs.
Yeah.
Let's say. So everybody gets some sort of power player on the current day global political world stage, whether you're members of like is the Politburo even still around?
I don't fucking know.
But certain members or organizations within a major world government, or you might just be a country if it's a smaller country, or again, New York Times, you might be the media.
Yeah.
And you have, I remember getting an index card, and it's CIA, and there are things that you know or can do, influence that you have. Again, this all fits on an index card, and there are certain things you want. Again, this is essentially a session Braunstein. It's not. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
We're not meeting every day of the con, and we're not meeting next week. We're going to do this for 5 hours. And they had some kind of timekeeping. It might have just been sort of loose because there were many moderators, GMs essentially.
Yeah.
They had a big giant projector screen, and there was a ticker tape, like on some CNN news ticker of news events. North Korea has launched a test rocket. It has not hit Japan. It's landed within Japanese waters or something.
Yeah.
So, okay, what's going to happen now? And there would be, I don't remember the frequency. It may have been once every hour, every 45 minutes, where things would sort of stop briefly. Hey, something big on the world stage has happened. Someone has gotten nukes, or whatever.
And I think the first time that you told me that about this was that within the first 30 minutes, like three women ran out crying.
3 women could not take it. It was so
the pressure.
It was so on. They left literally crying. I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
Literally crying because this was way too confrontational, which was awesome. Yeah. But again, these people have been doing 40 plus sized Braunsteins essentially, reliably, down to a science, and they've gotten better at it from what I understand.
Right. But again, but it is very different.
It's very different because
Than
that's
this.
that's very abstracted, right? Who, I'm not playing a character, I'm playing the CIA or the
yeah.
New York Times. And that's very rules light. They're basically, there were no rules.
Yeah.
Here's what you know, here's what you want. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Which is very realpolitik. That's very rules light, highly abstracted, patron level. You compare that to a vampire LARP, which is sort of the opposite.
Right.
None of them are using D&D, obviously, but you have BROZER, which is something else.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a different milieu. Just like RuneQuest is different from Dungeons and Dragons, which is different than Cyberpunk. They're all role-playing games.
Right.
So that's very interesting that there are two unexpected avenues, in my experience, that have sort of carried something like this through.
Yeah, some part of the DNA
comes from the place where you'd least expect it, vampire, and the other place.
Yeah.
I don't even know who these people are, really. I think they've done stuff for like the government, and as you might imagine, this pretty good.
It's just a recruiting tool.
Recruiting tool, yeah. MK Ultra event. But yeah,
But the thing is, this has been made explicit here.
This has been made explicit here, but this just speaks to the fact that I think this is a totally different thing. And if two wildly different things have kind of been doing this without using the name for so long into the modern day, think of what else you can do if you aren't trying to anchor yourself to course correcting the role-playing game branch,
Yes.
or tying yourself to Appendix N per se.
Right. Which is not a knock on Appendix N.
It's not a knock on Appendix N.
But it's the thing. It's like the factions in
There's
this
no
in this
Appendix
game.
N in India.
Right.
You're not even Plague India or what have you.
Right. But the point being that like this BROZER is very Appendix N. So it's like you've got a Martian faction. You've got someone else who's from space. I don't know if the
someone else
Martians
who's
are. Yeah, there are people
It's
who.
like John Carter from Mars, kind of.
Yeah, but I think that the Martians and the space faction are actually different factions. I might be wrong about
I
that.
have no idea.
But then you've got like a kind of a
You have like a pirate
Inquisition.
thing.
You've got pirates. You've got all
have a
sorts of different things. And
A tribal faction
right,
that's led by a guy who has lived for 1,000 years or something.
right, and they're doing this in Traveler and, like I said, Vampire and BattleTech and all these different games.
Right.
And I think that's awesome. And I'm glad to see that they have stepped out of AD&D and X
Right.
and into these doing this in these other games.
Yeah, again, I think it's needlessly, shoehorning them.
In some ways,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, like they're not shoehorned anymore. They're out doing all these other things, which is very cool. But like I said, I don't think that this needs to be like you said. Actually, it's like you don't need to shackle this necessarily to role playing games because this could just be its own.
Yeah,
thing.
what you found here is way more interesting than what I think you're giving it credit for.
Yeah, like
I think you should
I would. It's like if I had
broaden the horizons.
Yeah, like
And that
why would you
interesting.
care about saving someone who's playing 5e by being like, no, do the Braunstein thing, it'll save
Yeah,
your
for-
game. That's
you're
like,
ne- first of all, you're never
It'd be
going
like,
to
just
win.
do this other thing that's cool, like, which I'm not
Right.
arguing that they are trying to save the 5e people or whatever, but
Yeah. But I think
the point is it's a different part of
It's
the
a different
evolutionary
thing.
branches, and it's cooler to me that this is original. And more interesting to me that this is original than this is being like.
And if it's original, it means there's way
more that
more to sort of be discovered.
Yeah, like you're nowhere near the ceiling,
Right, and like
which
that
is awesome.
that national security decision game was very fun. It's not a role playing game.
Yeah,
It's anything but.
yeah,
In many regards, in almost every regard. But this is what's interesting. If you can do something as far and expansive in one direction as trying to simulate very abstractly with very few rules global politics.
They did this in Amber Diceless, I think, too.
Did they?
They did a Diceless Dice-Stein or something. I don't remember.
Dice-Stein, whatever.
Yeah.
But like that. So you have this happening. Again, I'm gonna keep coming back to this vampire LARP and this national security game because it's indicative of
Right,
sort of two extremes.
Yeah, two extremes. But
But the point for me is,
and it's not even like it's just two poles of like here's one like the opposite ends of the spectrum. You got the whole middle. It's just that it's like these are very different things that are on this branch that are fucking rad. Like there's
so like you can do this. You clearly can do a Braunstein just as a character.
Right.
So from my perspective, why I'm interested, and I would love to see what the bros come up with, that means, you know, maybe I'm not going to be a convert to doing Braunsteins as the major thing I'm after.
The bread and butter
it's
of my
just
hobby.
not, it just isn't what I'm after. However, we were talking about this earlier. There are some aspects of the role-playing game experience, some activities or some kind of in-world dynamics, which are perennially a challenge to sort of make happen easily in a role-playing game dynamic, right? So you have domain rules, right? In many different role-playing games, there's sort of you know, you can play all of this out as individual scenes, just like you're role-playing your character in any other scene, any other role-playing scenario, or you can sort of abstract downtime activities out, which do take care in an abstract way and in an off-screen way, the dynamics of managing some kind of an institution or some kind of a faction. There are many reasons and there are many situations where I feel like there's a missing middle ground between those two extremes, that it seems to me that something of the Braunstein dynamic might help me answer.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting to me.
And I have had, because we've talked about this a lot recently, is that and we can talk a little bit about our Axe game because people were asking about that. But things have really gotten out of hand in the world. There's just lots and lots and lots of stuff going on, and we're doing troop style stuff, and we've got people in like 3 or 4 different cities at this point across the game world, and a lot of loose threads. And this is the sort of thing that I remember when Jeffro was talking about when he first did the Battle of Braunstein. He was on a stream with Rube while they were talking, and I asked, is the idea for the Braunstein to inject chaos into the game? And I think he said basically like it's kind of the opposite. It's more of like when you have all of these world threads, it's a way of bringing them all together, which is now I think what they refer to as like convergence, and finding a way to kind of resolve that and give a new world state. And I'm kind of
some shoe girls buy some shoes.
No,
never.
Thank you, man.
The more the more you tell us to wear shoes, the more we want.
Thank you, man.
But it's that is where it's kind of seeming like our game is sitting. There's a lot of weird threads out there that need to get kind of tied together somehow. So I'm considering doing a session Braunstein, but I don't know if it'll work with our group. So it's something to definitely think about. And this, if I do it, I'm going to be referencing the BROZER quite a bit. Because this does actually tell you roughly how you can do these things. And the point is that they bring up that you can do this just using, you don't need some special mythical rule set. You can just use the rule set of whatever RPG you're playing. So in that sense, it's like it can just kind of fit in any game, which is a really cool thing.
Right. Again, that's what Vampire LARP is largely doing. They're making some changes because you're doing something in real life.
In real life, and you're not carrying
rolling
a dice tray
So that's
around
why,
with
like,
you.
you have the rock, paper, scissors thing,
Right.
which, like, that, I get why that would be an alteration.
Right.
But yeah, that's what's most interesting. You're right. You can have this kind of an experience in any role-playing game. More accurately, you can have this in any kind of role-playing game setting, because a setting is a world, and in a world, things happen. Conflict happens at the mass scale, at the individual scale, and so obviously, of course, you can have this sort of multi-party, organic conflict situation happen. And so if the bros take that kind of as a first principle, we've identified this kind of an experience which isn't served or isn't simulated precisely in wargaming or war games or in role-playing games, certainly not to the maximal level that it could. Okay, what can we do with that now? How can we make that fit? And how does that change between a D&D pulp adventure game compared to, a pulp genre game in a fantasy world or a hard sci-fi world like Traveller. Traveller has different rules than D&D, different rules than Cyberpunk, different rules than, Vampire. The genre and the setting of the world demand different mechanics, but they're all trying to have a role-playing game experience of playing a character. How would things look if we're trying to do the kind of Braunstein experience? How does that manifest most effectively or most smoothly or most interestingly in these different genres, these different worlds? What does it mean to do that national defense game where we're trying to simulate the totality of high-level global politics as opposed to individual personal politics amongst peers or rivals? How would that look compared to Gangs of New York, per se?
Right.
The answer is going to be different. I don't know what it's going to look like, but that's interesting to me. There's an entire new horizon here, which coming back to the point of BROZER being free, this is truly something new, and if someone actually really starts answering these questions and puts an actual product together, you should actually sell it.
Yeah, you should sell it, and you should make money.
Yeah, and I would not market it as a role-playing game, and I would not market it as a war game.
Yeah.
It's something else.
And it should be run at cons as well.
Yes.
Because people can't always read, as we all know. Or as some would say, nobody reads. Or no one reads. I'm illiterate.
No one reads,
but this
and I'm no
sounds
exception.
like a really cool thing to do at a con.
And it is, because again, part of the appeal of something like this. What is it? It's not just it's part of the appeal. Something.
Yeah. Do we really want David Wesley to be the only person running these things at cons?
No, we don't.
No.
But this isn't good, bad, or indifferent. But it is the case that the role-playing game dynamic does break down. I know some people say they have 20 people at their table. That is misery. Your game is absolute fucking dog shit. That's You're doing something else. You're just inflicting hell on people.
Yeah. You're inflicting hell on me by making me even think of that.
Yeah. The role-playing game the role-playing activity does not scale beyond a certain point.
Yeah.
It's the nature of what it is. There's no such thing as a 16-foot tall ant. Doesn't happen. You know, a Braunstein.
That's the most
Dynamic.
blue-pilled thing you've said all night.
That is true.
Yeah.
Damn. But a Braunstein dynamic clearly can scale in a way that a role-playing game really can't.
Except, wouldn't you say that the LARPers are role-playing?
Even the LARPers are role-playing, but
Like
I would put LARP as something different. There is something, but even a LARP is going to break down and scale. You're not going to have.
I agree with what you're saying, but like the idea that you could even have multiple tables in like with multiple referees in the same game world literally at the same moment, that would don't know that would actually work. I mean, this is exactly what the Braunstein did with a single referee. I mean.
Yeah, you would need more than one GM.
With what you're saying about the role playing breaking down as you scale and as you get more people involved
and even
at
this
the table.
national security game, it had multiple moderators essentially.
Right.
The
large vampire LARPs all have
multiple people,
multiple storytellers, GMs, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
So there is that. But I think I know what you're saying, but I'm not sure I agree. Because when you have the multiple referees in a vampire LARP, they are all still role-playing.
They are still role-playing, but again, I would say that a LARP is...
It's also different because they're taking a single character. They're not doing this... Because this faction Braunstein is you are controlling a faction, ostensibly through the command character. But... You're not doing that in a vampire LARP. You are just
you're role playing in a vampire LARP. You're not playing a role playing game, I would say. And the way I'm defining it here right now, right? There is something about being in person and acting out, which does add a kind of vitality. But also the dynamic of a LARP means that you also can't spend the same amount of time on certain scenes the way in which you would around a table. You know what I mean?
Magnificent Devil, spend some time at the gym and maybe take some dance lessons. We'll pick this up after you've mastered the swing out. Yeah. So that's basically our thoughts on BROZER. I think the broad strokes. This is original, which is way more interesting than it being the future of role-playing games, in my opinion.
Yes.
The future and past.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is it?
So I highly recommend downloading it and reading it and potentially playing it. I'm considering I'm considering this Braunstein thing. I'm not sure if it'll work with our group, but
it is very interesting. And again, it's like the BROZER thing, a lot of it is...
A big part of it is the factions, so you can play.
It is the factions. It is also tongue-in-cheek, I think, purposefully, because the point is explicitly for the BROZER document, the BROZER game, that don't worry too much about the window dressing. Just sit down and do this thing.
Yeah.
Try it out. See what you think of it. I would love to see or hear more discussion amongst the bros, and I would love to eventually see a product, whether it's a PDF or hopefully a physical product, maybe, that really does lean into taking a world seriously,
right,
whatever that is, because again, the whole point of this seems fairly self-evident to me. the Braunstein won't work unless you care about stakes.
Yeah.
Because the stakes are going to get you into conflict with other characters and or factions. And if you take the world seriously, the stakes will be more real, and I won't
Right.
have to add levels of abstraction.
Right.
You
To
won't
make
be
you
telling
care.
me we're
Yeah.
just playing a party game. So you'll do your job easier if you take the world seriously. So yeah, I hope to hear and see more from the bros in this regard.
Right.
And hopefully some other people, maybe who haven't tried this before.
Yeah, who get inspired by it.
Who tried to do the BROZER thing and hit on some really interesting ideas.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is very, very interesting that there is... we're not fixing role-playing games. We're discovering
Something different.
something truly different.
Yeah.
And something that is truly different, or something that has been forgotten for a very long time,
Yeah.
regardless of what sector you're in where that happens, those occurrences are very infrequent.
Yeah. I don't get why these BROZER guys switched to AD&D when they were already using Axe, and Axe 2 is now indisputably better than AD&D at everything, including mass combat. A lot of them were using AD&D, and a lot of them, it started off as an experiment to see if they could play AD&D and use every rule. However, some of the others, like Dubs, has been running Axe the entire time. Yeah, so it's not a monolith is the thing. This is
And nor
It's not
should
a
it be.
monolith.
Again, we've said before, argumentation and chaos is the engine of innovation.
yeah. Let's see. I thought patron play was hard to run for something that was ever going to be played for people that weren't us. Yeah. Yeah, it was going to be difficult for people that were not as dedicated into it. And Fishstein did have scoring, yes. I was reading B-Dub's blog for a while, and he was running Axe back in the 1E days. He ironically seems to have switched to AD&D right as Axe went God tier. From my understanding, from what I've talked to him, I think he's waiting for
Maybe
the
physical
copies of Axe 2 because he doesn't want to use PDFs.
Which I get. I
Yeah.
like having physical books, especially with a rule system like Axe.
Yeah. MacGuffins are not necessary. Braunsteins are really anti-fragile. If you have enough players, a scenario will emerge. What would be the suggested number of players for this? That would be a good question as well. Because I don't remember
I
if
don't think
that's
that's
addressed.
specified. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jeffro, if you're still here, please let us know. Trying to do the same thing with Lamentations. Wild scenario emerges from this, and long-lasting campaigns from just a single dungeon. Yeah. Bum, bum, bum. Bacon's here. Good to see you,
Hell
man.
yeah, man.
The Braunstein game, the way I've heard Jeffro describe it, does seem to deprioritize / downplay role-playing in the way that BLG espouses it, but it's still cool as hell. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I think that I
we
don't
have-
think that's an unfair assessment.
It's not unfair, and it's also like we just have there. Dubs did a great thread on the differences between. I disagree with some of his terminology, but it was a fair assessment of the differences in what we consider role play and what they're doing, which is what we're sort of trying to do is get into this character and kind of forget that I'm me for a moment and be this person. Whereas what Dubs is doing is, John Wayne may be in a different movie playing a different character. He might have
Right.
like a mustache in one, or he's wearing.
yeah, people call him by a different name
You call
in
him
the
by a
movie,
different
but
name.
he's John
He's
Wayne.
John Wayne.
Right.
And that's what he's doing, is that he's always Dubs. He's Dubs playing some character, but it's always Dubs. And that's a very, very different way of looking at role playing.
Yeah,
And if with those two goals, of the experience you want being different, you go in very different directions.
Yes.
Let's see here. The definition of role is different under Wesley's conception of the game. And your role in D&D is defined by your class and alignment, specifically in the AD&D DMG grading rules. Yes, this is where we're differing, is that I disagree not
with that.
What role playing is to me.
Yeah.
And that's not what the role is. The role is the character, not the mechanics of that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sounds like it aligns more with the dictionary definition of role versus what BLG means when they say it. Yeah, because that's what we try to... When we're talking about role-playing and when we talk about immersion, we tend to say character immersion. So it's like, I am immersed as the character in the world. Everything I'm trying to do is to be from the perspective of the character in the world, as if they were a real person. Is Mythras compatible with Theater of the Mind combat, or does it require a greater battle map? It is very compatible with Theater of the Mind.
Yes, it is.
In fact, has no rules in the core Mythras book for miniatures. It does have rules for miniatures in classic fantasy, but it is not required nor even assumed that you're going to use miniatures. I think there's like a paragraph about using minis. They're like, I mean, I guess you can. Here you go. Yeah. But that's the interesting thing about it, is that it allows you to make tactical choices and have tactical combat
without a battle map.
Which
is awesome.
Yeah. Let's see here. The 2014 DMG does have morale mechanics detailed in it. There is a precedent for this to come back. Just took Mr. BROZER to come along.
Morale mechanics?
I guess. Tora ran a Mythras one-shot for us, and it was strictly Theater of the Mind.
Hell
so yes,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Doing it right. Tora knows what he's doing. The AD&D DMG is the only one I reference. Haven't read the others. Yeah. Nor should you. I have a very long time ago read the second edition AD&D DMG, and it's bad.
Yeah.
I've played it twice at Origins. I wonder what he's talking about.
Probably the National Security Defense decision-making game.
Right. Strongholds are returning in new.
You'll have
D&D.
to tell us about that, Spencer. I am sure you've wrecked house.
Yeah.
I hope you got to play Wall Street.
Had a different definition of role play, and that's why it's cringe.
D and F had a different
DNF
definition of role play, and that's why it's
I don't
cringe.
know.
Maybe it's supposed to be D and D. I don't know.
Maybe D&D had a definition of role play. That's why it's cringe.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Minis are super cool. I'll paint them and have them there as character references. RPG is dumb was right, I think, in that if you play with minis, you're going to remember minis. What I'm going to imagine is going to be a lot cooler than looking at the mini. I'm not against painting minis and having them and things like that, and even playing miniature
and certainly
games.
not if you're doing them for a war game.
Yeah.
Like that's
the point.
part of that.
That's part of the
point
hobby.
Of it.
Yeah. But for me, I just don't want to use them. I brought, the last time we played Axe, I brought all these flat pack minis that I got from Spencer. And we're like, yeah, we could think about using these. And we just didn't even. There's too much stuff. There's like snacks on the table and stuff. So
there's just not space.
There's no
in
space.
in the space that we play.
Yeah.
I have used minis, or I've been in games where GMs who are don't typically use minis. If there is a very large, open, heavily populated confrontation.
Yeah.
Something that would not be a mass combat per se, but
Right.
there's 30 people,
Right.
In play in some area where minis have been used just to as markers.
Right.
I'm not viscerally opposed in those
We were
circumstances.
using like a dry erase grid for a little while.
Right.
While we were in a dungeon. So if you can get 8 to 12 players, I would go that big.
Mm-hmm. But not for most of the time.
No, he's talking
it's even-
because we asked the question for like for BROZER, like what's the proper number of players for this?
Oh, what
so
would
8
the
to 12 players.
8 to 12 players is the
Yeah.
answer.
So we've got
okay.
we've got
I see.
6 to 7 players.
I don't see why. It seems like it would be easier to scale down than to scale up, right?
I don't think so, because then you're losing some of the fog of war. If it's just you and 3 people doing a Braunstein, that's not
Well, I'm
enough
saying
characters.
for our purposes of 6.
Yeah, but it might be fun to throw in a couple of people who are there to explicitly play antagonist factions.
Who would you get?
I don't know, like Jordan.
But that's if Jordan is playing,
Right.
and he would play someone who'd play a player character.
Yeah, but he's only really played a player character like twice, and he would have a lot of fun
Fucking
with
shit up.
everybody.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah. And we have enough characters. Like, the party is just diverging.
It depends on what you want to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Some parts of the event will fizzle because not everyone is good at this, and or not everything just gels.
I mean, that's true of anything,
yeah,
though.
that's the case with even just role
I
playing.
mean, I agree.
With more people, there's a better chance there's a really good convergence that develops. Okay. My favorite RPG deal is when there are multiple convergences and then they disparate events influence each other to produce more convergences. Wheels within wheels. The secret is that all systems work with theater of the mind. You can always throw movement speeds and grids away. I would not want to play 4E without a grid.
Yeah.
That
my
would be tough.
Yeah, when it specifically tells you what battle grid
Right.
measurements. Like, oh God, it's worse. Now I have to imagine the battle map.
But yeah, again, 4 to 5 players is dicey in my opinion. 8 to 12 is much better. I ran 20 players in an always-on game for a month, and it killed me. That does sound like it would kill me.
Sounds to me like I would kill them.
Or myself.
Yeah. The old murder-suicide Braunstein.
As soon as you put down a battle map, the world is defined, and players become scared to conjure up new elements into the room. Instead of I flip the table and hide behind it, it's is there a table to hide?
Yeah. There is a table
I
clearly.
have to hide the table.
I have to hide the table, but I can't. It won't. I can't erase it off the battle map.
Yeah. I grab loose minis from the 50-cent and $1 bins at vintage stock. Well, I wouldn't want to play 4E. I know, that's the joke. Convergence is fun, but it's much more fun when there are multiple play groups in the same world operating at cross purposes or impacting each other in other ways, which I think is a lot of what the bros have done.
Right.
And I know
And
Blackwall is doing this sort of thing because he's doing domain play in Horde Wars. So if you're interested, Horde Wars is a very fun game. It's also very affordable.
Yes.
But go check out Horde Wars. Very easy and very clearly written rules. There's no ambiguity.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And it's a very, very fun game. Blackwall is right about the multi-table interactions being super fun, endorsed. Yeah. And that's what I was about to say before I got on the tangent about Horde Wars, is that that's kind of what the bros did for a very long time. They had multiple groups in the same campaign world, multiple referees, and they all were able to coordinate because of using one-to-one time. So that's cool. Yeah.
Yep.
But that's kind of all I've got to say on the topic.
Yeah.
What have you guys got for us? What have you contributed to this stream? Tell me what to talk about right now. Nobody forces you to use all the Legos. Are you sure? D&D, not DNF. Okay.
That makes much more sense.
Who has the laser? Yeah. Oh my God. That guy.
What is this in relation to?
He's talking about using. Does this have line of sight?
Yeah, the
Do you need
ruler
laser.
and-
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to do that in a role-playing game.
Yeah. That's the big problem of having an axe right now. That shit sucks, but a lot of combat devolves into that per the way the combat rules are set up.
Oh, really? Like getting rulers out and stuff?
Really?
Ooh. That sucks,
We've
man.
done some we've done some dry erase stuff while we were in the dungeon.
But that's no more than how most people play the game.
Like we're mostly just doing full theater of the mind.
Right. Here's the outline of the room.
And
it's clear.
Occasionally I'll have to, mark positions on paper or whatever to know, like, can you cleave or not? But you can take it to that level in Axe. You definitely do not have to. It's not dictated to you that way. It also disallows natural. I try to maneuver past this guard. I quickly side step to his back, etc. Things get less organic and more. Let's both stand here and whack each other until someone wins.
Yeah, because if you have, this is a thing I can see. This is a representation of the world I can see. This is a thing that doesn't change. This is the battle map. This is the extent of the world. Everything else is basically despawned, right? So, whatever I can do is sort of within this, 30 by 30 square room that we're in.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't care for battle mats.
And I think Jeff Rose saying goodnight. Thank you guys. Good show. Thank you very much.
Take it easy, man.
You gave us something to talk about this week. I don't find that minis constrain the game as much as you think. I also don't think there's anything wrong with asking what's in the room. Correct. On the last part, I do think that minis constrain the game for me. I understand that people like them, and it does. If you want to get very
I'm not denying your
tactical
explaining
in, like,
your
do I have
the
exact
game.
line of sight and things like that? Then yes, but that's not what I'm interested in. I've complained mostly.
Oh, what did Spencer play?
I was the PLO in one game in Australia and the other. Gross.
What is the PLO?
PLO.
I don't know.
can't remember. Isn't that Palestine?
I don't know anything about. Oh God, I hope not.
Palestine Liberation Organization. Yeah, exactly.
Jeez, I hope you lost.
Do you guys strictly use theater of the mind? For the most part,
yeah.
With some drawing and
minor exceptions.
But mostly
there is necessity.
Yeah. I got excited about painting my own 2040K army and naturally started looking for local players to play the game with. Holy shit, it is a pain to play the actual game. Fuck that. Yeah.
I typed 2040K. Yeah, you're way in the future of 40K. You're playing in the 2040th millennium. Things have gotten way weirder.
Axe 2 is not for sale yet. However, October 28th, the Axe 2 Treasure Tome is coming to Kickstarter. We will have our kind of first Axe review video for launch day for that. And we encourage you to go pre-sign up. The link is not here, but you can find if you'll find it there. I'm on Kickstarter. You can find it. The pre-sale page is there. I think that he is going to have, like, as an add-on for the Treasure Tome to get the Axe books, which will fulfill, I think, in the first third of the next year. I don't know anything about the dates. I just know that it's not coming out until next year because there's just so many fucking pages and it needs a lot of art.
It's so big, a lot of art.
The revised rulebook is basically done. There's like one or two boxes that don't have a picture in it. That one is pretty much done. Monster Manual is very close to being done, and the Judge's Journal has the most work left on it. But it's coming along, and it's I would definitely recommend getting Axe.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's really, really good. There's so much. There is so much in the Judge's Journal, and so much in the base rules that I will be borrowing from with game design for a very long time and mining Axe for a lot of stuff. Not to, one-to-one copy systems, because you can't really do that because it's all integrated. But so much thought has gone into this thing, and it's so comprehensive that it will be pilfered for ideas by many game designers for many years to come, because it's really, really good. I won't ever play 5e or 6e or whatever it is, if I want to play Dungeons and Dragons in a campaign, like a long-term campaign, I will play Axe. That's the game to play, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah. 40K, hours of painting, hours of your wage, 30 minutes of setup, turn 1 victory. Yeah. Did the PLO have access to exploding dice? For example, we had a fight in the dungeon with players and like 10 kobolds against 17 bandits. Didn't know how it would have been run without a grid, but maybe I need to recalibrate my method here. That when you get to that many combatants, yeah, you need... I would generally group them though. So it's like generally it's going to be groups of these things, and a fighter can attack, or a blade dancer who has the red sword of the warlord, can go up to a group, kill one, and kill all of the others in succession because of cleaves. But that is the thing. The number of combatants as it goes up, I do need to draw it out to keep track of positions because I can't keep all of that in my mind. I like miniatures. Yes, you do, and you're very good at painting them.
That is true.
I like minis. They're cool. I generally don't want to use them in the games I play.
For me, even more than not really wanting to use them for all the reasons you've stated, I don't want to store them.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in chatting about how a lot of the OSR combat simulationism aspects, I find some of them cool and most of them complicated without being deep or accurate. Is that in relation to Axe?
I think we'd asked for stuff to talk about.
Well,
I would say...
I kind of agree.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not the point of what the rules are doing. Like, it's trying to simulate a genre, not simulate... It's not like HEMA, you know? Where we're, like, trying to get, like, accurate...
I think... Yeah, to have more accurate or deep combat, I think you want, generally speaking, just a more simulationist game.
Right.
All around. Again, I would say Mythras does very deep combat.
Yeah. Mythras does very deep combat.
It also is not HEMA per se.
It's not, no, but it's also, it's like Axe is like a world simulation.
Yes.
It's not a combat simulator, whereas
correct.
Mythras is a better combat simulator in my opinion. Even though it's not, I don't know. There's a lot more detail in Mythras combat, you know. And
there's a lot at least clearer, and I would say just legitimately better, more. There is a more unified logic in how all of the systems work and why they work than in D&D or OSR type games, generally speaking.
Not a question, but it's harvest time in Northern California. That's where I grew up. But after the Chill Hop Lo-Fi station played a few hours, I switched over to blasting y'all's VTM videos, and a non-TTRPG player thought it was interesting.
Nice. He was right.
Yeah, it is interesting. Well, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, we really put a lot of thought into those videos, and we're very happy that people enjoy them.
Yeah. We know people want the Sabbat video. It is coming, along with other videos.
Yeah. Currently trying to bring Mythras-style combat, active defense, hit location, special effects, and Axe. Terrible idea or great idea? I think it's impossible. It's a totally different thing. Like we said earlier, check the judge's journal if you want to. If you're playing Axe, there is optional critical hit rules that do allow you to apply special effects that are going to be like tripping people and all the combat maneuvers that are listed in the revised rulebook.
Yeah.
But
honestly, if
don't mess with like trying to get rid of armor class and things like that, like attack versus AC, like that. You just need to live with that if you're playing Axe.
Yeah, with something like
they're just very, very different games, and trying to mix them is not a good idea.
And I think even if you somehow could, pull off a kind of Jenga maneuver, it would be. I think it would just be jarring, and I think it would it would make axe less fun, and the things that you liked about the Mythras combat would also probably be less fun. I would either stick it out with axe, yeah, depending on what your preference is. I'd either stick it out with axe if there's stuff that you are really liking about axe, or I would just play, or I'd switch it to Mythras, depending on where you're leaning, or play classic fantasy if you want more of the Mythras thing.
That's true.
With levels and classes.
Steve Fillmore's here.
Hell yeah.
Have now had
What's
3
going
back-to-back
on,
sessions where a certain DM has decided to run nothing but combat, and each combat has had no less than 50 combatants. You can imagine just how, quote, immersive that has been.
It's like I'm there. It's like I'm there. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's great.
It's not. That sucks, dude.
What I found is that more complex you make the combat, the less simulationist it becomes, because you slow it down too much to be believable as combat.
That's also true.
Yeah.
I would say.
It's everything's a trade-off. It was freaking terrible when my players successfully recruited nearly every kobold in the dungeon in addition to their 6 fucking henchmen. It was like, fuck, man, really? That you've got intrepid players then. Mine did similar things. Orchestrating triple crosses of
MK Ultra deals.
Yeah, monster factions in the dungeon, getting them all to kill each other and then get mopped up by a giant spider. That is fun. That sort of stuff is great. I like, that's a way more interesting dungeon delve than just going in and slaughtering the monsters and taking their shit. Convincing the monsters to slaughter the monsters for you is so satisfying.
Why would I risk anything?
Right. I began my consumer relationship with Games Workshop with my purchase of a softcover Rogue Trader second printing in 1989. I can't stand what corporations and public stock ownership does to our favorite properties. Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows everything sucks now. You know, every franchise, and I don't think that's going to improve anywhere.
Right.
And it's just not ever going to get better. I don't think, which is not necessarily a black pill, because what that says to you as a prospective creator, or really even just as a consumer, there is an opportunity and there is a hunger for new, unique things. So hopefully that is what we will see in the years to come.
Yeah. I know there are people who would be interested in Axe, having known them, but Mythras is condemned because of being hired as a lawyer back in the day. So fucking dumb. It is tremendously fucking retarded. And we are doing everything that we can. We'll be doing everything that we can as we start making videos about it to spread the good news about Adventurer Conqueror King Imperial Imprint Edition.
Indeed.
But in order to do that justice, we've had to play it for 10 months. And we're still finding new stuff. And yeah. So we hope to drastically increase the reach of Axe, because a lot more people need to play it.
Simple as.
I love the simulationism of Battletech combat. I want to know just how many LRM rockets hit the mech if I make it through the armor and get critical hits on his medium laser. Great war game. It is a lot of fun.
It was very fun.
Yeah, I definitely want to play more Battletech.
Yeah. Do you remember what you were playing? What at least kind of thing? I remember I was like a mobile missile launcher. I stayed in the back.
I didn't have missiles.
I think I was the only one who had missiles.
Yeah.
It was fun, though.
It was fun, even though I lost. My player's cleric is constantly trying to recruit enemies to his side, while the 2 rangers are always trying to recruit monsters to their side. Yeah.
Okay.
You're playing D&D. BLG, yup, just agree, lol. I love Battletech. Wish I had a group for it. There are people playing Battletech online. Yeah, exactly. Tabletop simulator. Online virtual tabletop. I've heard the popular for playing BattleTech on the cheap when looking for group. Says two things. Either it's time for the new age of new games and new players, or to inspire us to take the wheel of the car and fix the dumb game. Steve Fillmore, you do need to pick up and read Acts 2. It is...
I'd be interested to hear what your opinion is on it, man.
It's
You are
very
more of
comprehensive. Yeah.
It's very comprehensive. Steve is a very smart guy, and he is way more rules-minded than I am.
Yeah. It's very cool.
What would the Bizarro version of this channel sound like?
It would sound like a slop tuber, probably.
Yeah, it would sound like
Mr. Beast.
Bob World Builder, maybe. Yeah. I honestly think that probably is the correct
Inversion.
Yeah.
He is
very nice.
he is very nice. He is very
pretty much likes everything. from what I
amiable,
understand.
and we are
not
not that.
It's in terms of agreeableness, we are very low on agreeableness, and I think he's very high on agreeableness.
Right.
Yeah. Hey guys, what is up? Today we're going to be talking about why you should be playing 5e with feats.
Colville voice, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're pretty much at the end here. Does it say we only have 6 concurrent viewers?
That can't be right.
That can't be right. That would be fucking funny. Actually,
That would be
though.
if we bored everybody.
Yeah, that would be
It went
really,
up to
really
64.
goddamn funny. Okay, that's better. But with that, we are going to call it a night,
Yep.
gentlemen and gentlemen, and see you next week.
Gentlemen.
And remember, go download BROZER, but also look in the description here. And if you are not already signed up, and even if you are, click the link for Cults of Zahak, go to the Kickstarter page, and get signed up to get notifications because it's going to be fucking awesome.
Something before the stream ends.
What do you say?
You need an annoying gimmick. Quick, think of something before the stream ends.
Yeah, we need catchphrases.
Yeah. We have no apologies, no compromises.
Yeah, it's not really a catchphrase though. All right.
Everybody think about catchphrases.
Everybody think about catchphrases.
Weird or,
Bring us catchphrases.
Yeah, things that we say all the time for next time.
For next time. But with that,
All
have a
right,
good night.
boys, take it
Yeah.
easy.